One of the things that's now clear is the most serious pollutants that we encounter in our daily lives, the toxic chemicals that are most closely linked to human disease, are not chemicals that are, kind of out there in the environment floating around. They're chemicals that get into our own bodies. So I've been interested in this question of plastics and plastic pollutants for a long time. I've spent over 10 years researching and looking at different aspects of pollution. I've written 2 books on toxic chemicals where my co-author and I actually experimented on ourselves to see to what extent toxic chemicals are absorbed into our own bodies. And I've been wondering for the last year whether microplastic particles might be absorbed into the human body, might actually be tiny point sources of pollution that we're carrying around with us every day. About a year ago, I started trying to figure out how to test myself. I'll spare you the more gruesome details, but basically I took a sample of my stool. First 2 samples were from days when I was just living my life normally. The samples from the last 4 days, I modified my diet and I modified my behaviors. The other thing I did in those 4 days is I tried to wear clothing that had a high polyester and acrylic content. One of the main sources of microplastic particles in the environment, in our homes, is the plastic in the clothing that we increasingly wear. That then sheds as we wear it, or as we wash it in the washing machine. It goes down the drain and into the local lake and then comes back at us in our drinking water. And the biggest looming question over all of this, do humans have these tiny microplastic particles in them? And if so, what are the health implications of that?
If it's in the water, it's in us. If it's in the water, it's in other organisms. If it's in the water, it's in our food because we use that water to grow our food. And there was just a study that came out earlier this week showing that plastic is moving from the soil into plants. But it also means that if I was a meat eater, it's going to be in the meat because animals eat plants. And then we eat the animals, right? And so this stuff is moving throughout the entire ecosystem. That's just the reality. And we find it everywhere. So everywhere we've looked, we find plastic, and it's generally these microplastics, and we're even seeing them down to the nano size range.
There's your very positive identification of polystyrene that just went through your system.
So that could have been one of the food containers. We found 3 different types of plastic. The polyester and acrylic particles probably came from my clothing, and the polystyrene particle probably came from food packaging. It feels kind of weird to be one of the only people in the world, and the first in North America, to be able to say, yes, I have microplastic in me. The next question is, what are the health implications of this? And that is truly scary.
It's so difficult, I think, for people to appreciate that you have these small pieces of plastic that you can't even see. So what is the importance of them? Well, when you get down below 100 microns, which for the record is the width of a human hair. So you take a human hair, if you're looking at a piece of plastic that's smaller than that, that plastic can actually make its way across the gastrointestinal tract. It can be carried through our blood, and therefore it ends up being lodged within all of the organs that then clean out the blood. So your liver, your kidney, and it could even make its way across the blood-brain barrier and end up in our brain. And so then the question is, well, what kind of implications does that have for human health? We know that there are a lot of chemicals that are used in the manufacture of plastics. We also know that as plastics are out in the environment, chemicals will stick to the outside. Each one of those pieces of plastic is like a little poison pill, and it's bringing those chemicals into us. We know that those chemicals are endocrine disruptors. That means that they mimic hormones and can affect us in terms of, causing cancer, causing increases in ADHD and autism, and, a wide variety of human health impacts. The question that we kind of maybe don't know quite as well is, what about the plastic itself? That polymer that makes up the plastic, what is the impact of that? And that, I think, is the question that was still out there. So that's kind of the more pressing, or the forefront of the area of research right now, is kind of understanding those health implications.
This is the kind of thing that drives me crazy. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that ketchup came in glass bottles. Over the course of my experiment, as I used more plastic products, levels of microplastics in me increased. So one thing that we clearly need to do here is to limit the amount of plastic in the environment and in our surroundings. Nearly 1/2 of all the plastics produced every day go into single-use things. And a lot of that stuff can be dialed back and would result in less plastic in the environment and less plastic in us.